the screen off. So good evening to everyone. Welcome to our session with Tebibu Salomon Erego. And thank you for joining us. Let us introduce this series of new seminars that we call the Cooperative Discovery and Share the Learning. We are always very keen to share what we learn about cooperatives in Northern Ireland, so I hope you will find this session informative. The agenda of tonight is we wanted to welcome Tebibu, that has dedicated quite a long time to this project, and also we wanted to welcome Olive, that has proposed that project and worked with the Tebibu from University College Cork. The title of the session is the Challenges and Possible Solution of Emerging Co-ops in Northern Ireland, and Tebibu will introduce the topic to you very soon. We wanted to hear the findings of this interesting report, and then we will follow up with a question and answer. If we can close about 7 o'clock, we will be happy to do so. This part of events are partly sponsored by the Belfast City Council, and we have done different events in October, November, and also December. That is this one. We usually try to introduce to our virtual audience new emerging cooperatives in Northern Ireland, just to inspire people, just to inspire the cooperators, possible cooperations. The Belfast City Council support is a program of support for cooperatives based in Belfast. So it's quite limited, but it's an interesting program. It's the only council in Northern Ireland that has a specific program for cooperative development. This part of the program, the program consists of mentoring and coaching, also seed funding for the registration of cooperatives, and sometimes they have a periodical social economy incentive funds that they are open to the participants of the program. You have quite a lot of information on cooperatives on our website, and the findings of this study, as well as the presentation, will go on the website and will be available to all. We are very keen to disseminate all what we develop, all the contents that we come in contact with as many people as possible. So just without any kind of any delay, I wanted to then let Tebibu introduce the project. Just a small word of thank you, Tebibu. It was a pleasure working with you, and was definitely a pleasure having you around and kind of having your challenging questions to Cooperative Alternative. I thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Tiziana. I will share my screen. Is my screen sharing? Perfect. Thank you very much once again. My name is Tebibu Salomon. I am from Ethiopia. Before I started my master's study, I have worked in business development space, providing facilitation support to investment projects, mainly for agro-processing industries. I've heard a lot about the impact of the cooperative business model in the Irish dairy and food industry. And I think that is what made me decide on taking this course. I was fairly new to the cooperative space when I enrolled for the master's program in Cooperatives, Agri-Food and Sustainable Development in University College Cork. I would probably say all my knowledge about cooperatives is from the program in the time I have spent with you, Tiziana. And I'm very happy to have been introduced to cooperatives in general. I conducted the research on the challenges of emerging cooperatives during their early stage life cycle. The analysis and conclusions were made based on the examination of 7 emerging cooperative businesses in Northern Ireland. The study was conducted for the fulfillment of master's degree in cooperatives, agri-food and sustainable development, and as part of the work placement at cooperative alternatives. I would like to give my thanks to Tiziana and my advisor, Dr. Bridget Carroll from University College of Cork as well. In this presentation, I'll try to briefly introduce cooperatives, the existing literature in the challenges of cooperatives worldwide, the methodology I used to collect the data and analyze it. I will also present the main findings and the potential recommendations, which I think might address the challenges. So starting with the introduction, we can simply define cooperatives as business enterprises that are democratically controlled and owned by their members and which work in the interest of their members. Cooperatives are business enterprises like any other business enterprise, but cooperatives focus on its member, and it's the people over profit. So it focuses on its members rather than merely focusing on generating profit for the organization. Cooperatives provide a business platform for communities confronted with social and economic injustice, and cooperatives attempt to transform marketplaces to the best interest of their members whilst achieving the demands of the people rather than making profits. Different studies also show that many cooperatives were formed to solve problems that were unaddressed by the conventional business structure. Therefore, people having similar challenges and people with common objectives, they come together to run a business while addressing their common issues. And that was the case for many worker cooperatives, producer cooperatives, and many other forms of cooperatives back in the days. Even nowadays, many cooperatives are being formed by people who came together to solve problems that they're facing, commonly faced by their communities and people around them. The cooperative business model is flexible and works across many business sectors. I would say it's possible to say that there are no business sectors where the cooperative business model cannot be applied. And currently, according to the reports by the International Cooperative Alliance, cooperative organizations are believed to have more than 1 billion members within more than 3 million cooperatives internationally. So there is a growing number of cooperatives worldwide. Cooperatives embed approach to help communities get socioeconomic benefits from business activities while resolving problems that were left unaddressed under the typical business structure. Therefore, the cooperative business model is offering an alternative way of doing business while alleviating existing socioeconomic inequalities for the people who are establishing cooperatives. Apart from enabling its members to collectively gain economies of scale and providing them access to technologies and helping them to pool their capital resources to invest in value-added activities, cooperatives are also building a strong social cohesion and integration because people are coming together to achieve a shared objective. So that is building a strong social integration among people, because they're coming together to solve a certain kind of problem they're commonly facing while doing a business. Many studies and success stories indicate that cooperative business model is proven to be suitable for the contemporary economy. So community wealth development, they are also believed to be suitable for community wealth development. They provide a business platform for infusing democratic platform for inclusive economies. So as part of the research, I have also tried to review the literature that exists about the cooperative developments. So regardless of the type of the cooperative business, whether it is a worker cooperative, producer cooperative, consumer cooperative, or marketing cooperatives, many cooperatives have fallen far short of expectations due to external and internal barriers that they face. The literature indicates that cooperatives are challenged by factors from outside and inside that are hindering the development and performance of cooperatives. In the coming slide, we will see some factors, both internal and external factors identified in the existing literature as challenges for cooperatives. When we see the internal factors affecting or challenging the performance of cooperatives, the first one is member satisfaction, which is believed to be a key in determining the unity of the cooperative and sustainable functionality of the cooperative. Building member satisfaction through accurately performing its function is seen as a key to being a successful cooperative. So keeping the members satisfied with the activities that the cooperative is undertaking is key to sustainably run the cooperative. And also commitment is ultimate guarantor for inter-firm cooperation. And inter-firm cooperation is very important in small businesses and cooperative businesses. Commitment is an important aspect for cooperatives, since the willingness and the dedication of members would help run the business activities of the co-op, because running the cooperative requires the people to be actively engaged in the activities that the cooperative is undertaking. Therefore, strong members' commitment stimulates an increased performance in the cooperative's activity. And also the other one is social capital. It also plays a significant role in the development and performance of the cooperative business. Cooperatives are obviously much closer to their community and the social values than any other type of business. So collective decision making practices in the cooperative creates a vibrant internal environment, and whereby the social capital would be able to stimulate the participation of the community to come and engage in the cooperative activities as well. And the other one is internal governance structure. In cooperatives, internal governance characteristics give a rise to issues and tensions that are highly specific to cooperatives. As a member-owned, member-controlled, and member-benefiting organization, the governance of cooperative would obviously have to face specific tensions and issues that arise due to its unique nature. As we've tried to mention in the introduction part, cooperatives are all about its members and the people over merely making profits. So it would have to face certain tensions when it comes to managing the cooperative, because it mainly involves the people and its members. So there is a need for creation and adaptation of theories and different standards enacted by the International Cooperative Alliance to uniquely identify the cooperatives, to help the cooperative run successfully despite all the tensions and the specific issues that might arise. When you see the external factors identified in the literature, like any other business entity, cooperative organizations operate under an environment that might have different status quo dimensions. Therefore, their progress could be affected by the legal, political, economical, social, and cultural environments in which the cooperatives operate. Therefore, basically the public policy legislation and the legal framework in which the cooperatives operate in will highly influence the success of the cooperative. Therefore, it plays an integral role in fostering the cooperative business, as the legal framework lays the foundation for financial mechanisms, technical assistance, sector supporting infrastructures, so that all these important aspects would be laid by the legal framework in which the cooperatives operate in. So cooperative businesses in every jurisdiction operate under a legal framework enacted by the relevant authorities. Therefore, the attention given to cooperatives determines how conducive the environment would be cooperative developments. So these are the main challenges mentioned in the literature about cooperative businesses. So we can agree that this the cooperative business model is seemingly an alternative and effective business model, but it still faces increased challenges from a variety of angles as a business entity. So this study, in my study, I have attempted to explore challenges affecting the growth of emerging cooperatives in Northern Ireland. Additionally, the study examined the journey of emerging cooperatives to validate the potential challenges in the literature from the experience and perspective of emerging cooperatives in Northern Ireland. Having identified in the study the challenges of emerging cooperatives, I've also tried to present recommended initiatives and potential strategies to tackle these challenges. The study has involved emerging cooperatives in Northern Ireland, operating in a wide range of business sectors. These cooperatives involved in the study were under the support scheme of Cooperative Alternatives through the Go Social program. They were receiving consultancy and facilitation support from Cooperative Alternatives. The primary data were collected from selected emerging cooperatives through interviews with the representatives of 7 cooperatives. With the help of Tiziana, I have tried to reach out to more than 15 cooperatives, but we only received interest to participate from 7 of them. So the interviews were only conducted with 7 of them. So to the ones we sent invitation to participations, we've used criteria to select the cooperatives we invited initially. So the criteria used were having less than 2 years of incorporation, with a member size of less than 15, and receiving similar facilitation and support from cooperative alternatives. So therefore, the cooperatives participated, the 7 cooperatives that participated in the study were only 6 months to 2 years old, with a membership size ranging from 2 to 10 members. Mostly they were all founding members to the cooperative. So there are different types and size of cooperatives in Northern Ireland, ranging from producer cooperatives, banking cooperatives, and cooperatives engaged in alternative businesses. So mostly the common traits and challenges apply to all cooperatives, but some challenges might be unique to each type of cooperative. So in order to see and have the perspective of different cooperatives engaged in different business activities, we've tried to consider different cooperatives in the data collection, cooperatives engaged in different business sectors. Therefore, we had representatives from consumer cooperatives, producer cooperatives, community benefit societies, worker cooperatives, housing cooperatives, and construction cooperatives as well. So in the next section, the findings I will be presenting are the findings of the analysis conducted on the interviews I had with the participants from cooperatives in a range of business activities. So we had compiled the stories and the journey of those cooperatives, and then I have tried to summarize and compile and try to find common challenges that they're facing, and also at the same time I've also focused on external challenges, external factors challenging those cooperatives, given the size of the cooperatives and the journey of the cooperatives. We decided to leave out the internal factors from this research, so hopefully it could be studied by someone in the future. But for now, the challenges we identified, I identified from the analysis of the interviews I had with the participants were external factors. So the first one, the first challenge we drawn from the interview data were the legal framework governing cooperatives in Northern Ireland is not comprehensive and drawn by the relevant stakeholders rendering services to cooperatives. So without grounding in comprehensive legislation, a partial picture of a cooperative phenomenon prevents effective promotion of cooperative development. Despite the long-lasting presence and significance in the UK economy, cooperatives do not benefit from a comprehensive and inclusive legal framework. One thing I have noticed, for example, for instance, emerging cooperatives in Northern Ireland have struggled to open business bank accounts as a cooperative. I had a respondent that said, since cooperatives in the UK were registered under the Financial Act conduct, and the banking systems were only integrated with the company's house database. So whenever a cooperative goes to the bank to open a bank account, their name or the cooperative entity does not appear under the bank system. So which they always have to go to the Cooperative UK to get a support letter to kind of get treated in a specialized way. So the integration of the systems and the system not being comprehensive and inclusive in all the stakeholders rendering service to cooperatives have also posed challenge to cooperatives. A simple activity of opening a bank account taking taking even a month for them to open a bank account and start their operation. So for cooperatives, if they are to grow, cooperatives needs a predictable rule and intertwined systems all around among stakeholders and regulatory bodies. I also had a respondent that compared the requirements, the legal requirements required for a cooperative to register and a sole proprietorship business entity to register. So an entrepreneur can register as an individual, can register, like it only takes him 15 minutes to register using the system. It's just there are a few steps to register an individual company. However, to register a cooperative, it takes so many days, and there are a lot of paperwork. They have also specifically mentioned that without the support that they're receiving from Cooperative Alternative and Tiziana, they wouldn't even be able to understand the requirements and the steps required to file a registration request. So obviously cooperatives to get into the business, they need a predictable rules so that they can easily understand what is required for them to legally register and be able to start operating in the business area. So the next one is lack of structured financial support scheme, which is one of the major challenges facing emerging cooperatives in Northern Ireland. The development of specific business and financial support services for cooperatives in Northern Ireland has not been to the level required for emerging cooperative enterprises to build the foundation for what they have to offer to the country's economy. So obviously, the cooperative business activities would solve the community's problem. At the same time, the profit they will be generating, the jobs they would be creating. If it is a producer cooperative, their production capacities would ultimately increase the country's economy. But at the same time, the emerging cooperatives require the foundation to be able to do that, to do all that, and to be able to offer to the country's economy. They require specific business and financial support, especially those cooperatives engaged in areas whereby they might require a higher upfront capital investment, whereby they may not be able to raise the initial capital by themselves or from members' contribution. They might require some financial assistance to be able to start their business. At the moment, the Belfast City Council only have the Go Social program, in which they are also trying to support cooperatives as part of the program, even though the Go Social program was only primarily designed to support social enterprises in partnership with cooperative alternatives. Through that program, they've been providing support to emerging cooperatives with consultation and assistance during the early stage formation. So the lack of adequate financial support from relevant stakeholders has left emerging cooperatives to fully depend on members' contribution only to raise the initial capitals required for them to run their business, which have slowed the growth of their commercial activities. Therefore, depending on the nature of the business activity, as I've mentioned before, the cooperatives, depending on the nature of the business they are engaging in, they might require, or it might demand, a financial, a higher upfront capital or financial strengths to establish the commercial activity. And those business areas, they might have a very low running cost, but at the same time, they might require a higher upfront initial capital, which the cooperatives require to get assistance, financial assistance, or easy access to finances so that they can be able to establish their commercial activities. So the lack of access to finance is a huge challenge for cooperatives engaged in such kind of business areas. And also, even though the cooperative movement has been there for more than 100 years, it is still viewed as a new territory by policymakers. It is yet to be taken as an integral business structure to view it as a key to the economy. So it's not a key part of development strategies in many countries, including the UK, and more specifically for this study in the Northern Ireland. It hasn't yet seen as the key to as a key aspect in their development strategy. It might be seen as part of it, or it might be viewed as a segment to contribute to the economy, but it hasn't yet been given a full, or I would probably say specific attention to develop cooperative movements among communities, among entrepreneurs. It is still viewed as a new territory. Therefore, the level of appreciation for the cooperative business model is not up to the standard necessary to encourage and create sufficient awareness among communities, so that people who want to engage in different business activities might consider the cooperative business model as an alternative. Most people still view the conventional business structures as their go-to business structure when they plan on forming, or when they plan on starting any kind of business activity. Cooperative business model is not viewed or mostly considered by different entrepreneurs or members of the community as well. So to strengthen the cooperative movement and to be able to build a strong local economy, there needs to be an increased awareness on the cooperative business model as a distinct form of organization, so that countries, so for example, the Belfast city might have a greater number of cooperatives engaged in different business activities, so that people might be able to solve their problems while doing business, while generating incomes, while creating jobs, and while contributing to the local economy, because cooperatives focus on building a local economy. They use the resources from the local, they create job opportunities to the people in their community, they provide back to the community. So we can even say it's all about the community. So there needs to be, there is a need for that to happen. There has to be an increased awareness and take cooperative business model as a key part of their development strategy. So the research analysis found that there is no strong background education to promote cooperatives and create awareness among communities in Northern Ireland. Even respondents claim that the development strategy does not promote a cooperative movement, which in turn has created a weak level of awareness and knowledge among the community. As I've said at the start, the challenges identified are mostly external due to the time we had in the fact that the cooperatives involved in the study were with the limited members. So I decided to focus on the external factors. So hopefully someone in the near future might come and fill the gap in conducting a study on the internal factors challenging emerging cooperatives. Finally, these are the recommendations I've drawn. This is my final slide. The first one is designing a comprehensive legal framework. As a people-centered enterprise, cooperatives seek a proper understanding by government and stakeholders of the economy and social environment to design an appropriate legal framework. Given the diversity of ownership and managing principles, cooperatives require a comprehensive and a broader legal framework, which is more than what is currently being reflected in the policies regulating the conventional business structures. So therefore, to provide a fair and equal playing field so that cooperatives can compete and work along any kind of business enterprise, which might even have capital resource and access to finance in various ways, like investments and capital resources from individual investors, to make cooperatives to be able to compete at the same level and in the same playing ground. They require a comprehensive and a broader legal framework. So an enabling legal framework is key to help and to encourage cooperatives to be able to compete and provide even more to the economy, as well as can operate in a greater and higher capacities. So prioritizing cooperatives and providing preferential conditions to cooperative businesses can also be considered as a way to encourage cooperatives. For example, during the interview I had, I noticed that there was a construction cooperative. They take contracts to design and renovate houses. So one thing that I was thinking about while establishing their commercial activity, they could be considered by government entities when they launch any kind of contract or any kind of activity that require the service of any construction company. They might consider providing a preferential treatments or preferential conditions to cooperatives that come from the community, that include cooperatives including people that have the ability to work on the contract. So the legal framework or the comprehensive legal structure could also consider providing a preferential treatment so that they can help cooperatives to easily establish their commercial activities and to start generating income so that they can in turn help their communities. Providing facilitation to help cooperatives to have financial access to financial resources could also be one of the recommendations to consider to alleviate the challenges they're having to access financial resources. As I've said in the findings, cooperatives in certain business activities require a higher initial capital and a lower running cost, and they require platform to gain access to finances. Therefore, stakeholders need to design initiatives to facilitate and ensure adequate access to financial resources to enable cooperatives to kickstart their commercial activity based on the viability and societal impact of the project they have. And also another way to alleviate the financial access issue, it could be building a strong cooperation among credit unions and cooperatives. Credit unions are also a form of cooperatives. So in building a strong cooperation among credit unions and cooperatives, it could ultimately create a platform whereby cooperatives would enjoy adequate access to financial resources. For instance, some countries have a collaborator credit union that focuses on cooperative enterprises, and they consider their unique structures and business objectives to understand their financial needs so that these cooperatives could get an easy financial access from these collaborator credit unions rather than going to any commercial banks to get loans or any kind of financial funds. At the same time, the terms in the loans would also be provided to cooperatives in a preferential manner so that the cooperatives would not be in any stressful situation to pay back their loans. So the understanding would be more automatic rather than in the case of stock-owned commercial banks and government finances. And lastly, it is also extremely important to design a development strategy that recognize and promote the impacts of cooperative business model. Cooperatives have contributed a lot to the economic needs of the community. Therefore, the business model should be taken genuinely at the center of the development strategy to provide adequate support and build a strong awareness among the community to further support the development of a cooperative movement. Therefore, the development strategies, they need to start genuinely taking cooperatives into as part of their goals or objectives as a center at the center of their development strategy, so that they can come up with initiatives to provide support to cooperatives. Yeah, I guess this is the end of my presentation. Thank you for your time, and I will be happy to hear any comments or suggestions on the study. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tebibu. If you wanted to stop sharing the screen, it would be great. And we can open the floor to any questions, if there are any. I may start with some question, if you don't mind. I found some of your recommendations very interesting, in particular about the strategic centrality that cooperatives needs to acquire. And I can, this is a comment, and I can actually support that recommendation. And so in practice, what it meant for us to have a program, for instance, from the Belfast City Council that simply added the word cooperatives to their business support program, and how that in some sort of way facilitated the kind of access that potentially cooperatives had. So even the language of how we describe the social economy sector, it's important that we preserve the word cooperative in any program that we wanted to design to support the social economy. So thank you for that. I really validate that. One of the things that you said there, also it's about cooperation among cooperatives. Did you see any emerging cooperation through the cooperatives itself? You talked very much about credit unions supporting cooperatives, but during your interviews, did you actually had any evidence or any kind of feeling that the cooperation among cooperatives was part of what cooperatives, the emerging cooperatives, wanted to do? After all, this is one of our principles.
Yes, unfortunately, I have not. I did not have the feeling that they have any kind of cooperation. Even I don't even think that the cooperatives that I had the chance to interview, they know other cooperatives in Belfast city. It's a bit surprising, because mostly when someone wants to or plans on establishing a cooperative, there is generally, we might assume that they might go for an already established cooperative to seek for any advice or to get any recommendations on how to go about what they're going to do. But unfortunately, I have not noticed any cooperation or even any unity among the cooperatives in Northern Ireland. To be honest, the only common thing that I've seen was that they were all under the support scheme, under cooperative alternatives, receiving facilitation and consultation. Apart from that, I've not seen any links among the cooperatives.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else that wanted to ask a question?
Tiziana, I'm going to speak very quickly here because the background music might put you all off. So apologies. Tebibu, well done on that. Well done on the program and the research and this program of study. We haven't spoken, obviously, and I know Tiziana and Olive on the call will know of me and of Community Finance Ireland. We're a registered society based in Belfast, and just so it's clear, we're very, very keen to lend money to cooperatives across Northern Ireland. We were going to be even more proactive than we would have been in the past in terms of reaching out to the cooperative movement and saying, guys, you need loan finance. We are one with you. You talk about terms and conditions that are, empathetic to the needs of cooperatives that are putting social impact back into the space. That's what we're all about. But I can understand that maybe that mightn't have come across that much in the findings and the research. But just to let it be known, that we're very much, particularly in Northern Ireland, because we've already done significant number of co-ops in the south, but particularly in Northern Ireland, we're keen to put it out there that we're open for business and looking to support those social enterprises. So just say that, but well done.
That's interesting, Donald, and thank you very much for that comment. Can I just say that one add to that? Sometimes it's not only about the accessibility of the product, but is the variety of the products that we could access in the finance world. And that, Donald, probably we have done that conversation. We talked about that. How can you, as a finance provider, could diversify the type of finance that you can give to cooperatives, so that there is a finance is not, there is some finance more kind of target to emerging cooperative, like patient capital, equity, and some other finance that is more geared towards the sustainability of a cooperative that is well established. So the question is, how can we have a conversation to diversify the type of finance that we have available in the region?
Sorry, one of the things that we're launching is a new product in the Republic in the new year called Hybrid Social Finance. It's the first of its kind in Europe. It's what I refer to as a loan with stabilizers. It's a kindergarten loan, particularly for first-time borrowers in this space. And what we're trying to do is to encourage those that may have been dependent on grant support in the past and have never come across loan finance before, to invite them into the ecosystem in a very responsible manner. And the way it works is that we have a first-time borrower that comes in looking for X amount of money, say £30,000, repayable over 5 years. When we run the figures over, we see that the viability of repaying it over 5 years isn't there, but there may be a viability in terms of repaying 50% of that, say 15,000 over the 5 years. Now, to enable this thing to work, we've partnered with Rethink Ireland in Dublin, so the Department of Community and Rural Development in the south has earmarked €1 million to go towards the other 50% of this loan. So that 30,000 that I spoke about will be broken down in two parts, actually three, but from a repayable perspective, one, we would have 50% of it would be repayable with interest, loan finance to ourselves. The other 50% of what they were looking for would be a non-repayable loan, as opposed to a grant, a non-repayable loan from Rethink Ireland. And the third part of this jigsaw is business support, valued at €10,000 in the Republic, regardless of how much money they're borrowing, plus a place on an accelerator program that has been delivered by Rethink Ireland. Now, can we do that in Northern Ireland? I certainly hope so, but it's going to take a couple of other players. We're not going to be doing the non-repayable aspect of the loan. We're not going to be doing the business support. We want to be known and appreciated that we provide loan finance in various forms, and that we're very keen to innovate and pioneer for new instruments. This is just one of a couple of things that we're launching next year. I don't want to talk about the rest of them just in this call, but right now, this is something that we're very keen to see promoted on an all-island basis. But because the department are involved in the Republic, it's confined to the 26 counties in the Republic at the moment.
Thank you. Donald, very, very good. Innovation. Oliver, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, my background isn't anywhere near as fancy as Donald's is today, and I'm in the middle of a school project as well, so I'm waving around the scissors here, looking threatening. Poor Tebibu, you look absolutely frozen as well, I have to say. Easy knowing you're back in Ireland.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask a question, Tebibu, about your, I suppose if you had a magic wand and you were told you can make one change to legislation, one change to policy, one change to something that's going to really support the cooperatives in Northern Ireland, what do you think the priority would be?
It's a bit tricky question.
It's like an interview question, isn't it?
I would probably say putting cooperatives under the same bucket like any other business models. I sometimes do not get where the governing authorities are coming from while putting all those requirements for cooperatives. Obviously, cooperatives are established under certain principles and standards. They're coming, having fulfilled all those requirements, and then having done all the groundwork when they come to the government authority to get legally registered, they are faced with so many requirements, non-ending requirements, I would say. So I would probably put cooperatives under the same bucket so that they can have an easy route to get licensed.
I think that's a really good point. And it's not unique to Northern Ireland either, of course. That problem, yeah.
Yeah, I
Looks like great research. Yeah.
Yeah, I will completely agree. In particular, this lack of accessibility to the mutual register, Olive, and that caused quite a lot of problem. Like Tebibu has very much, articulated, particularly for banks account. Having a separate database, it doesn't help, and having an inaccessible separate database really creates problem. But legislation-wise, I think in Northern Ireland, it's almost there with UK. We had a lot of reforms in a lot of consolidation through UK in the past few years, since 2016. But also we lost quite a lot of things, like not having a registrar in Northern Ireland, have to go through a registrar in England. It is not helpful from a practical point of view, nothing else. But yeah, quite a lot of wishes.
I'm only giving you one though.
Well, more Tebibu that have dedicated time to really independently from us, and I wanted to say that he was a researcher that we express our opinion, but Tebibu has come to his own conclusion. And that is something we want. We want more engagement with academia. We want more talks about the emerging sector, because we think, okay, that is interesting, but I think that it's interesting also from an academic point of view. So we wanted to thank you, Tebibu. We wanted to thank you, the University College Cork. Olive, I think that you started this conversation. We want to continue to collaborate with this independency that you bring to the sector. It's not us telling the world, it's more than us. It's now an army of academics that understand our province. But we are reaching at 7 o'clock. If there are no other questions, I think we lost Dono. If there are no other questions, then we could close the session with, again, our great gratitude to Tebibu. Was a really, really good kind of wave of working together with academia. And you were our kind of union between us, the practitioner, and the academics. Thank you again. So we can close here.
Great. Thanks to Diana. Thanks to Tebibu.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.